I want to share you a funny fact about how these guys met. And Campbell has no idea what I'm going to say. So 11 and a half years ago, Gemma was abandoned in a nightclub by a friend who disappeared off with some other guy, left her on her own. And Campbell came to the rescue, I understand, and said, I will escort you out of the nightclub. And he's never looked back. So there you are. Gemma and Campbell, give them a cheer.
Thank you, Matt. I don't know how he knows that story. Yes, so we're Gemma and Campbell. Thank you all so much for coming. It's so lovely to see so many familiar faces in the crowd. And if you don't know who we are, like I said, we're Gemma and Campbell, and we run the travel channel Highlands to Hammocks. It's a mixture of a website, YouTube channel, social media platform, where we share all of our adventures, sometimes a lot of time misadventures, as we will be talking about a lot in this presentation. And specifically today, we're going to be talking to you about the Emerald Isle that is Ireland. Quick show of hands, who has been to Ireland? Good, fantastic. Is anyone here Irish? Yourself? Oh. Do you want to come up and talk to Ireland about it? Because you'll probably know more than we will, so. Okay. Well, is anyone planning a trip over to Ireland either this year or in the future? Fantastic. Well, if for everyone that's not got their hands up for that, hopefully by the end of this presentation, we will have a full show of hands, because that's what we're going to try and do today, is inspire everyone to go and visit Ireland, specifically the western coast of Ireland, because it's got to be one of the most beautiful places that we've visited in the world. It's got absolutely everything you could ask for. But more of that later on. So as I said, we're Gemma and Campbell. We are from, as you can tell from our thick accents, we're from Essex. No, we're from Scotland. I was hoping for a little bit more of a laugh than that. But yes, we're from Scotland, and we live in our motorhome full time. We've been full time now for the past 3 years, coming up for 3 years. Yeah. And we live in our little van called Ellie. This is supposed to be a video. It's not just our photography skills. Like that
I was going to say, it's frozen on an awful
a very flattering still shot from a nice little intro video we're going to be playing. But we'll be showing you what our motorhome... Actually, I'll show you right now. That's Ellie right there. That's driving away from Keene Beach on Achill Island on the western coast of Ireland. And she's a 7.5 metre motorhome. She's an Eldis AutoQuest 155. And that's our house. Yep. We bought her a few years back now, and we've been living on her... Never looked back ever since. And these are our social handles. If you want to follow our adventures, you can check us out on any of the platforms.
Yeah, so a little bit about us. We are a nurse and chemical engineer turned online content creators and writers. We quit our jobs unofficially, I guess, 7 years ago. We started Highlands to Hammocks in 2018, and that's when we just started going traveling, documenting our adventures. COVID hit, and we actually got stuck over on the island of Guernsey. And after working there for what was supposed to be 3 months, turned into 16. Yeah. We decided that we just wanted a lifestyle where we could actually live for ourselves and kind of make our own rules, basically.
Spend time together.
Yeah. Because we felt like we were just passing ships in the night, and we thought, right, now is the time to actually really take this whole travel blog thing seriously. So we got stuck in, and we actually ended up starting writing books, and we started our own self-publishing company called Destination Earth Guides. And now we have got, so Destination NC500, that was our first book, and that actually came from a lot of bad press during the lockdowns, to be honest. Like we were stuck on Guernsey, we saw a lot of people traveling up there, we were really jealous at the time, and yeah, unfortunately there was a lot of bad press about it, and I guess people were going up there not really knowing how to dispose of their waste, and the facilities weren't really in place at the time, and we thought, we had lived in a campervan over in Australia when we were traveling, and we'd also both grown up on camping holidays, and both of our parents have caravans, so we were really familiar with the lifestyle, and we thought, let's try and write something where we can, educate people on how to do this that have never done it before. We list waste and water disposal water and waste disposal points in our book. We also list...
It's just like a range of tips about how to tour in a van responsibly, because it really broke our hearts, didn't it, when we were reading about all this bad press. We love van life, and we love the freedom that it gives us, and to be reading about all the problems that's been caused in these rural, vulnerable parts of the world, just because of the lack of information and education that was out there. So we decided to change that, and that's where Destination Earth Guides came from.
Yeah, and it started off as something that we thought, oh, we'll write this wee book, and then we'll just like have a box under our bed, and anytime someone buys one, we'll just pop to the post office and go and post one. And it just kind of grew and grew, and now it's our baby, I guess,
Yeah.
and we just absolutely love writing. And so from there, we then went on to produce a map which pairs perfectly with our Destination NC500 book, and wrote one about Destination Sky, and then most recently, the Wild Atlantic Way, which was our biggest one to date. We've actually done 3 trips to Ireland in prep for that one. And this is what we're talking about today. So we're going to cover why we are talking about the Wild Atlantic Way. What is the Wild Atlantic Way? Why is it so popular? What you can expect in each part, the key attractions, our recommendations, tips for driving, and some sustainability tips. And then we've got a little Q&A at the end.
Yes, if you have any questions, please save them till the end, and we will do our best to answer everyone's questions. But hopefully, if our presentation's really good and no one puts their hands up at the end, that means that we've done our jobs right. So why are we talking about the Wild Atlantic Way in particular? For those of you who don't know, the Wild Atlantic Way is the 1,600-mile road trip that leads down the western coast of Ireland. And it's one of the most popular road trips. It is the most popular road trip in Ireland, actually. We first visited it back in 2018 when we'd first quit our jobs. And we were living in London, and we'd moved to London as a way to get jobs and save up to quit our jobs and go backpacking. I don't really know what we were thinking, moving to the most expensive city in the world to try and save money on a student and postgrad budget. But somehow we managed that, and we were traveling around in a tent as a result. So it wasn't luxury traveling we were doing. We were back in a tent, and we drove down the western coast of Ireland for about 2 months, driving a car and in a tent, and basically exploring around the route. Since then, we've gone back a couple of times. In 2022, we went back for a couple of months, focused on the more northerly part of it, around the Sligo region, down towards Galway, and then we shot back across to Dublin to leave. And then just last year, in 2023, we drove the entire route over a course of 3 months. That was from Londonderry all the way round to Cork, and it just blew our minds with the beauty that we actually found there.
Yeah.
After that, we published the book, which was published in November of last year, and we just want to share with you everything that we learn on those road trips with you today. So this is how much there is actually to see and do in Ireland. When we go to visit a place, we usually add all of the points that we want to go and see onto a Google map, and this is what it turned out to be like. When you actually zoom in on it, it's a lot less messy, but this is a range of beaches, castles, cliff views, restaurants, hotels, everything that you can imagine. Wild swimming spots, everything that you can imagine, we put it into these maps. We're actually doing a limited offer on this map. We format it to be a lot more nice than that, so you can actually see the different types of things that are on the map, and then we put it onto a digital guide, so if you're wanting to have a little browse at that, you can scan that QR code. But yeah, this is how much there is actually that you can see and do whilst you're in Ireland. It is an incredible place.
Okay, so as you said before, the Wild Atlantic Way actually covers 1,600 miles down the west coast of Ireland. It starts in the north from Derry to Cork, or vice versa. So whether you're coming into Ireland from the north on the ferry from Belfast or Dublin, you can start up that end, or you can also come from Fishguard if you're coming from the south. And as we said, this journey offers some of the most spectacular coastal scenery, quaint towns, and historical sites along the way. There really is something for everyone, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is just a quite small range of the things that you can find on the Wild Atlantic Way, and it's part of the reason why the Wild Atlantic Way is so popular. I've just realised I'm blocking the view for you guys, sorry. So it's everything from the scenery. You've got the rugged coastline, the cliff views, the beaches, like some of the best beaches we've ever seen in the world. You're talking about white sand. Until you actually go up and touch the water, you would think that you're somewhere Mediterranean if the sun is shining. If the sun is shining, I would just emphasise that. The wildlife in these parts of the world is incredible. I think when we were over there, we saw dolphins, we saw seals, we might have seen a whale, I think, like way out. I think we saw a small one. And then there's basking sharks, there's humpback whales, there's even killer whales out there spotted sometimes.
And there's a lot of, we actually passed a lot of people on cliff walks as well with their binoculars sitting out bird watching. There's loads of opportunity for that as well along the coast.
Yeah, and if you're into your adventure sports, there's a huge range of different things that you can do there, from hiking to cycling, kayaking, wildlife spotting. not an adventure sport, but surfing is a massive thing to do over there as well. And another one of our favourite activities in Ireland that we discovered was the boat trips that they actually offer. So that's the wildlife spotting boat trips, so you can go out to see the smaller islands, such as the Aran Isles, and you can go and see all the kind of wildlife, the birds, and all that out at sea. Then into the culture and history, one of the things that we love the most about Ireland is the small towns that you actually drive through. It seemed as if every single one that we were driving through had its own little unique, quirky charm. Think like the small Scottish villages, but they've got bunting up everywhere. There's a really lively atmosphere, and all the houses are like really colourful. It makes us love the place every time. How many times were we driving through and it would just be like a group of people just sitting playing the fiddle, and the music was just playing across the high street, just for fun.
And all the buildings as well, like they paint them very colourfully, and a lot of the towns as well, which is really nice. Like even on a bit of a rainy day, kind of feel a bit uplifted when you're driving through the towns. It's really nice. And a lot of the culture over there is outdoor cafes and restaurants, which is lovely when the sun's shining too. Yeah,
it's always kind of spills out onto the road and the town square and everything. It's a really lovely place to be when the sun is shining. They've also got castles. They've got both restored castles and castle ruins, which I love both of them for very different reasons. The ruins, you can let your imagination run wild. It feels like you're walking through something out of Game of Thrones. And then the restored ones have got that kind of grandeur to them. Like there's one in particular we'll talk about later on, where you can actually go in and have a banquet in the middle of this ancient castle. Then you've got the food and drink. Who's tried Guinness here? Anyone a fan of Guinness? Excellent. Gemma never used to be a fan of Guinness, did you?
Well, funny story. I didn't like Guinness until I went to the Guinness factory in Dublin, and then they taught me how to drink Guinness properly, and now I like it. I mean, It's not my drink of choice, but I do like it now. Apparently, you have to drink it past...
You have to take a big sip of it. I think you have to drink a good amount of it, and then once you're drunk, then you'll start liking the taste of it. I think that's
possibly
the theory behind it. But apart from just Guinness, they've also got a huge range of kind of cuisines and their own distilleries and breweries that are over there, spread out across the entire coastline. And they've got really delicious restaurants, some of the freshest seafood that you can enjoy because it's straight in from the harbour.
One of the places that is brilliant is around the Dingle Peninsula. Beautiful restaurants along the seafront there.
Yeah, right on the harbour front. That's right.
And actually going back to the boat trips, the Dingle Sea Safari is brilliant. That's where you can possibly quite high chance that you'll see dolphins out there, and sometimes you see whales as well.
It's almost every day, I think they say. Yeah, there used to be the famous dolphin called Fungi. Unfortunately, they believe that Fungi passed a few years ago, but that's the reason why the Dingle Peninsula actually became famous around the world. There was this one dolphin, this one lone dolphin that was spotted almost every single time. And if you go to Dingle, there's actually a little statue of Fungi in the town square. That's like how important that animal is to the town. And then accessibility, actually getting to Ireland. There's a range of airports all along the western coast and on the eastern coast as well. One of the biggest is Shannon and Cork airports. And when we went to there, we got the ferry across from Cairnryan into Belfast. Then went in, drove to Londonderry, and all the way around the coast from there to Cork. And then from there we went to Fishguard, which is in the southwestern point of Ireland, across to Rosslare in Wales. And it kind of gives you a big loop if you're wanting to do that. But there's plenty of different ways for you to get across. And also a little tip, we are Camping and Caravanning Club members. I believe it's the same with the Caravan and Motorhome Club, but we got discounted tickets. You can get discounts on your flexible tickets if you are booking a ferry across to Ireland. So it's something to keep in mind. I think what we paid for our membership, we actually saved on the ferry. So it kind of worked out for free anyway. Then on to our favourite parts of Ireland, like trying to narrow this down. You saw that map before, how many different points there are on the western coast. So trying to narrow these down into these specific points was difficult, but there's some clear winners out of our favourite runs. Starting off with Barley Cove Beach. Where was this? We were just driving along this one, weren't we? We kind
of stumbled across this one quite accidentally, actually, and I think that's why we loved it so much, is it was down on the... Oh, I was going to call it something it's not.
It's Ireland's most westerly point, so it's heading out towards Mizen Head.
Mizen Head, yeah, it's heading out to Mizen Head. Mizen Head, there's a beautiful walkway, big lighthouse and everything that you can go and explore. And we actually passed this beach on our way there, and we were like, we need to go.
Where is that?
Yeah. Absolutely beautiful. I mean, you can't really even see it from here, but the water was like crystal clear. And I mean, it's not even that busy, and it was a really warm day on that day. And this beach was actually caused, I believe it was the 1800s. It was formed from the Lisbon earthquake.
Yeah, 1755. It was the 18th century.
Yeah, that's right. And it was a tsunami that actually formed that beach back then.
Then another one of our favourite beaches, you can see Ellie just parked down there in the middle. We actually spent the night at this beach in the car park here and woke up to this view of Keem Beach. Absolutely stunning. There was a few other vans that were parked there as well with us overnight, but it was a very peaceful, quiet place to spend the night, right out on the edge of Achill Island, and it was overlooking what is one of the world's most beautiful beaches. I believe Keem Beach has actually been voted up there in the top 10 beaches in the world multiple times, and it's very easy to see why, because of how remote it was to actually get to. The first picture of Ellie driving along the road, that's a windy little country road that you have to go to get to it, and it's a proper dramatic view that you get to enjoy once you're actually there. We went for a swim in the morning, didn't we, down there?
And I was going to say, Achill Island is also, as much as it's an island, you access it by a bridge, so it's really easy to get to as well from the main route. And yeah, as you said, we went for a swim. Sometimes a lot of people see basking sharks out there. We unfortunately didn't at the time we were there. Well, maybe just as well if we were in the water.
If we're in the water swimming, I know.
But, yeah, it's a really beautiful place. And actually, if you just go back a second, up on the top bit there is a lovely walk as well, where there's a nice kind of like arched window, and you can see through the arched window across over the beach, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, and then last of our favourite beaches, there's a place called Megera Beach. This was another winding little drive to get out to it, really beautiful country roads to get there. And then we actually parked up at a nearby waterfall. It's we're going to talk about it later on. It's Asakara waterfall, I think it is. But you can't actually get down onto the beach itself with a motorhome, so you need to walk to it. But the walk there is so rewarding because it's just this huge, big white sand beach. And in the cliffs over there on the left, there's actually a series of caves that you can get in and explore at low tide, which was really cool. I think it was like almost underwater, so you had to kind of wade to get into it. But it was a really cool place to go and explore. And these beaches are a dime a dozen all along Ireland. They're so beautiful. And because there's so many of them, the one thing that we found about the Irish people is they love the outdoors. They love to be down by the beach. They love to, even on a rainy day, the beaches will still be full of people. Kids in the water playing around. It's like 10 degrees, but they still just love that kind of outdoor lifestyle. But despite that, if you do find a beach like this, it's beautiful and it's very busy, you can quite easily find another one just down the road because there's just so many of them all along the coastline.
And I will just go back to that with Megera Beach. The car park is very, very small, so I wouldn't even try it in a motorhome. And that's something that we like to do.
Well, we did. And we had to reverse back along the road.
And that's why we like to visit all the places that we do write in our book for that reason, because our van's nearly 8 metres, and we don't want you to get yourself in the same sticky situations that we have got ourselves in. And that was a very, very tiny, narrow car park that you do not want to get stuck in. So I definitely recommend parking along the road at the waterfall and, give
just
the car park for this one a miss.
Yeah. And then on to castles. Like I said, we've got 2 castles here to show you. One's a ruin and one's a restored castle. Carrigafoyle Castle is one of my favourite ruins just because of how dramatic it looks. It sits out on this little causeway, out on this like kind of abandoned moorlands. And you can actually climb all the way up to the top. You can see 2 people standing up there in the left image. Because it's been run by the Historical Ireland charity, they've actually restored a lot of the castles, so you can get in, you can get around it, and you can really explore and embrace what it feels like to be back in those days of like the 15th, 16th century, just living in this castle in the middle of nowhere. Another one of our favourite castles is Dunguire Castle, so that's the restored castle I was talking about at the start, that you can actually go in and enjoy a banquet in that castle. It reminds us a lot of the castle Eilean Castle up in the Highlands of Scotland, which is the James Bond castle, the one that sits out in the middle of the water with the beautiful causeway across to it, just because it sits out in this body of water as well. And you can, as I said, you can enjoy a banquet there. You can really immerse yourself if you fancy getting dressed up and really embracing the ancient way of life. This is a perfect place to go and explore. And the last one, Cahergill Stone Fort. This was Ring of Kerry, wasn't it? Yes, it was very top of the Ring of Kerry. And I believe it was actually used as a way to store livestock. It's not actually anything to do with a kind of defensive structure. It's a very, very fancy sheep pen, essentially. But it was a beautiful place to go and explore. Like, you can get in there, you can wander around all of these stone steps, and you can climb all the way around the top to enjoy that magnificent view of like the Irish countryside.
And this was like a gorgeous day in July. And as you can see, again, there's hardly anyone there, and that's what we love so much about the Wild Atlantic Way, is it's so spread out that we never felt like we were in crowds or anything. There's always room for everyone.
Yeah, it's very easy to go and escape the hustle and bustle in the Wild Atlantic Way because it is 1,600 miles long, so you can find your own little corners of it.
And there is a really, really good chocolate cafe near there.
Important to note, yeah.
The name's just escaped me. Oh, what was it? Google chocolate cafe and it'll come up, but it's very, very good.
Then moving on to one of our favourite peninsulas, this was actually found on the Beara Peninsula, which in our opinion was the best hidden gem in the entire west coast of Ireland that we found. It sits just to the south of the Ring of Kerry, one of Ireland's most popular road trips. The Beara Peninsula just beneath that was empty. I feel like we were the only two people actually driving around it. And this is one of the roads that you can drive along. It's called the Healy Pass, and it is straight out of somewhere in Italy with its like winding spaghetti roads over the Italian Alps. And it was just beautiful.
And Ellie's the only van there. There was nobody else on this road. We were actually way down the bottom of it, and the clouds started to come in, and we were like, oh, why is this happening now? Like, we were really looking forward to getting the views, and we sat for 5 minutes. They passed right over, and we were left with this view. And it's possibly the best road I might have ever driven.
I would say so. And it was also
really
very
amazing.
easy in a motorhome that you can see there's plenty of passing places all along the way, and the hairpin bends were actually massive. It was a perfect kind of place. I spoke to someone else who said that they always ride their motorbike up there just because it is such a good kind of quiet winding road. Really beautiful.
And you come over the top of it as well, and there's a really beautiful view
of
when
the
you reach over
loch
the top
down
of
the
it.
other side.
Yeah, it's lovely.
And then onto Sleehead Drive.
This one is a bit more sketchy, but it's not impossible. It is a one-way road. It is around the Dingle Peninsula area, and they put one-ways in place basically because you can see there just how narrow it is, but it is possible to do it in a larger vehicle.
Just slowly, I would say.
We also got up at about, I think we did it around 7 a.m. We tried to hit it for sunrise, so at that time there's like nobody else on the roads anyway, so we didn't have to worry too much. But it is a gorgeous little drive. I can't remember the exact distance of that one now.
It's a good few kilometres.
Yeah, it's not too far a drive, so you can just wake up, kind of go round the loop.
Yeah, it took us maybe 15 minutes. What I loved about this was there's a famous drive in Scotland called the Bealach Pass. It's up the one up and over the mountain towards Applecross. It very much reminded me of that, like these kind of steep cliff drops that you see there. For the passenger, if you're driving along this side, it is very nail-biting, but it's also very rewarding because it's a very fun road to drive, especially when it's quiet. And I would say it's actually more intimidating and more thrilling than the Bealach. So if you've done that up in Scotland, then this is the next road that you need to tackle because it is just like, it's a very good road to drive.
And if you go out on the Dingle Sea Safari boat trip, you actually come around this part of the cliff as well, so you can see just how high up it is.
Yeah. And then on to waterfalls. Glencar Waterfall was a standout favourite for us because, funny story, we parked up right beside the Glencar Loch. We were kind of hanging around the region waiting on the good weather. It was a typical Irish summer where it was a torrential rain. It was monsooning for about 3 days. And we'd parked up right beside the loch to the extent where we thought the loch was actually going to flood and wash us out into the water. Luckily for us though, we're right next to this beautiful waterfall, and the perfect time for waterfalls is when it is absolutely monsooning. So we got this torrential waterfall here called the Glencar one. It sits right in the middle of this jungle-ish kind of area that you need to hike up to. It's a short hike, it maybe takes 10 minutes. But because of that, it gave us a proper ballet feel. So you had the green leaves, the torrential rain had caused like a proper flood over the waterfall. And just the spray that you're getting off the waterfall was just sheer energy. And I think that's why I love waterfalls so much, especially when it is raining. Coming from Scotland, we are very much used to big waterfalls and it raining all summer. So this was a really good one to go and visit.
Yeah, and it's very accessible as well. I think you could go up a few steps to get up to a different viewpoint, but if you
don't want to go up that far, you don't
or
need
you've
to.
got a pram or a wheelchair, like it's very accessible to get to as well.
And then this was the one I was talking about parking at in order to get to Megera Beach. This is at Asaranka Waterfall. And in terms of accessibility, this one's the best one because we were driving along that road and this one literally sits right at the roadside. It's beautiful big 2-tier waterfall that tumbles off the mountain and you can just park straight in at it and enjoy that kind of view without even needing to leave your car. So it's a perfect place if you're wanting to go for a little picnic. And time for a video. So we just usually put these videos in. This is just a little example of what we like to do when we are out in Scotland. If you've watched our YouTube videos, you'll have seen this part already. Are we getting sound? And this is just a little example of a beautiful Irish beach and the kind of adventures that you can get up to when you're in Ireland. Have I got the sound off? There we go, that's not good.
Do not want to forget about that. Always do, always disappoint.
Let's do it.
Oh, it's definitely easier getting in with these wee boots on.
I could just do it a third sock, to be honest. Right, in you go then, stop chatting. What's that?
5 minutes later.
Oh guys, I've just made an absolute boo-boo. Usually when we go in swimming, I've got this little kind of carabiner thing that I take off. It means I can put it in my shorts. But when we were out of the van, I swapped it over for my house keys, which means that we are now locked out in a car park and I'm in my swimmers. This is an absolute disaster. Oh, I'm sorry, baby.
Just as all I can say is, okay, it's not that bad because the roof is open.
That is the one saving grace, otherwise we would have had to smash a window. And the other thing is, we've got a full car park of people that I hope aren't going to call the police when they see us climbing into our motorhome. Everyone, this is my van. It's my van, I'm not breaking in. Right, if you're a robber and you're watching this, close your eyes, because I don't want you to see this. Like, our van is impenetrable unless we leave the roof open. Oh, what an idiot, man. Thank you.
Oh no!
I'm getting like wedges.
What an ordeal.
Hello. Welcome. That was terrible. There's like kind of ridges on the window and basically as I was lowering myself in, this basically went up my jacksie. Completely ripped it there.
Oh no! Are they still wearable?
Crisis averted. High five for that.
And let's change those keys now.
Yeah, let's change the keys over.
Okay, high five. That was
Crisis
a
averted. We hit the road and finally began.
very close call. But thankfully we left the window open and we are now extra careful.
Yeah,
to
good.
not leave the keys over.
Good thing to know if you do go in swimming, then it's always good to leave your roof open because then you can climb in.
Not if there's robbers around though.
Anyway, so what is it like actually touring the World Atlantic Way? So we've talked about a lot of this already. It's like winding, narrow roads. There are, I would say, less passing places than what we've seen in Scotland. So you need to kind of choose the right roads if you're wanting to go in a big van. But saying that, it is definitely feasible to go in a motorhome because we did the entire thing in a 7.5 metre. It's kilometres per hour. It's very well signposted. You can see, you don't even really need a map to follow it. It's literally every single junction you'll get to, you'll see the little zigzag winding World Atlantic Way symbol pointing you in the right direction. And then generally speaking, if you're heading south, just keep the sea on your right and you can't really go wrong. It sticks to the ocean. There's certain roads that aren't suitable, like I said, but what we found is that Google Maps is very determined to try and make your motorhome stuck. So you're better off trying to download like a sat-nav that's specific to your vehicle length if you are wanting to use that as a phone navigation form. And then other points is the signal can be quite weak. We found it generally better as we drove south, and Vodafone works well across the country, apart from in some parts in the north. Then food and groceries, it was quite easy to find shops, wasn't it?
There was always little grocery stores or supermarkets actually quite frequently along the route. It wasn't like sometimes when you go up north in Scotland, you're very limited to what you can get, but we didn't really have a problem.
It was Lidl's everywhere we found.
And all the towns were really busy and lively. We really loved Galway, actually. But even the smaller towns were full of like little bars or restaurants, people playing live music, even sometimes just sitting out in the street just playing live music, and there's just always a nice little buzz to them. Amazing restaurants and cafes, as we said before, really good places to eat out. And overnight stops, we found it really easy to find park-ups due to how remote it is, but we did find some places, especially around the Cork area, there are a lot of height barriers, which made it a little bit more difficult.
But saying that, they did tend to be just like on either beside the beach or in the town centre. We did find it quite easy to find places to overnight just by heading out of these places. I think it's just to stop people just kind of hogging the car parks. It tries to discourage you from like sitting in one place that's right beside an actual scenic point.
Yeah, and we used Park 4 Night as well to find all our park-ups, which made it a lot easier.
Yeah, definitely. What did we learn when we were actually there? One other point I'll say as well is a lot of people ask us about the Schengen zone in Ireland. It doesn't include, it's not included in the Schengen zone, so you don't need to worry about the 90-day rule. That's if you're going into Europe and you've got a British passport, you can only spend 90 days in a Schengen zone, and then you need to spend 90 days out of a Schengen zone. Ireland's not included in this, so you can go to Ireland with a British passport and travel for as long as you want. You don't need to worry about the Schengen zone. Other points was we learnt that you can get UK Calor gas bottles over there very easily. The best way to find the nearest stockist is just going onto the Calor UK website and then just searching for the 6 kilogram propane option, if that's what you've got, on the interactive map that they've got over there. There's bin tax, unfortunately, which made it very easy to dispose, very difficult, to dispose of rubbish. Because
I think that was the hardest thing on our whole trip, actually, to be honest.
We turned into a bin lorry quite a few times where we had 6 or 7 bin bags, just because there's not any like roadside bins to deter locals from just coming and putting the stuff in the free bin. And that's because the locals need to pay to dispose of every single bin bag. So it's something to keep in mind if you are going over there, is that you're going to need to be very strategic with where you put your rubbish, and you might end up collecting a lot of it.
What we learned to do was if we went into a supermarket and things came in like cardboard boxes, because they tended to, like, we really filled up on that like a lot, and we struggled to even find recycling points for that. So we actually just disposed of them in the bins at the supermarket if we had just done a shop, and we got rid of them there. And then campsites as well. Yeah,
campsites are a big help as well, definitely. And then tips for driving it is, like I said, it's very easy to actually follow the routes. All you need to do is just plan ahead. There's so many sites that you're going to see along the Wild Atlantic Way. You don't really want to miss out on any of them. So prior planning is both very easy to do and, I would say, essential. Allowing plenty of time is another thing. It's not the kind of route that you can expect to do the entire thing of in 2 weeks. Like, it will take a lot of visits or a lot of time, just because of how many beautiful places there are. I would recommend instead, if you've only got 1 or 2 weeks, just focus on 1 or 2 areas of Ireland, because they're all so beautiful. You can just like tick them off as you go, basically. Be prepared for the narrow winding roads. Like, this is one example of the Gap of Dunloe.
Yeah.
This is where we didn't actually get to in our motorhome because the road is so narrow. There's 2 roads that I wouldn't recommend driving. The Gap of Dunloe is one, and then Connors Pass on the Dingle Peninsula is the other one. I would steer clear of those 2 roads. Then preparing for low signal, try and download any maps that you do use, download them offline so you can use them. Just like in Scotland, it's all about appropriate clothing and gear. As Billy Connolly said, there's no such thing as bad weather, just the wrong clothes. You can expect all 4 seasons in one day in Ireland.
Especially on the coast.
Especially on the coast, yes. It's one of the windiest places that we've ever been. So make sure you pack the right clothing for that. And then it's just about enjoying the environment and the local communities. Like, we have a real passion for the Irish communities and the Irish culture, just because of how friendly and welcoming they all are. And it's just about embracing that and enjoying your trip over to there. Then FAQs that we usually get, like I said, it's all about spending a little bit more time in this part of the world. You can do 7 days and 14 days, but we would recommend maybe picking 1 or 2 areas. Highlights for us, I would say the Ring of Kerry is definitely one. It's just a beautiful part of Ireland. And then if you have time, going down onto the Beara Peninsula, like I said, that's a hidden gem for us. I cannot understand why more people weren't going there.
Yeah.
We would recommend spending at least a month if you want to try and drive all the way from Londonderry round to Cork. And then you can just enjoy yourself a little bit more, really relax and enjoy your time on the road. Spring and autumn are perfect. We went in multiple seasons now, I guess we've been through, apart from in the middle of
Mainly
winter.
summer. Yeah.
But as spring is quieter, there's little to no midges. You do get midges over there as well. And the businesses are starting to open, and that means the boat tours, the wildlife tours, the surfing things, the cafes, restaurants, they're all starting to spring up. The winter is obviously a lot quieter, but a lot of the places are closed, and the weather can be rough, especially on the western coast. Like, it's very, very windy and cold. And then in the summer, it is a bustling place, but like we said, you can still find these quiet little corners to yourself. So it's the kind of place we would say that we like to escape to in the middle of summer, to be honest. Up in Scotland, it gets very busy as well. Whenever we've been there in Ireland, it's not seemed that busy. I think a lot of people don't really go there, so it's still quite a hidden gem in that sense.
Yep.
And then moving on to the final bit, any questions, we would love to answer them. We hope that you have enjoyed this presentation, and please just stick your hand up, Matt. I think Matt's going to come round with a microphone if you have any questions. But thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure chatting to you today.